it going, everybody? I'm Steve from Broken Galaxy, and welcome to this week's episode of Push Start to Listen, where we take a look back at the week in video game news. And up until this morning, a pretty slow-going week, but boy, oh boy, Microsoft just had to come out with that MLB The Show news and just flip my world upside down. Let's get into it. We've known for a while now that the Show 21, Sony's exclusive tentpole baseball franchise, was coming to the Xbox. But this morning, we got the news that not only is it coming to the Xbox, but the day it comes out, it will be releasing on Game Pass. I had to catch my breath for a moment. I needed to check if my dog was now my mom. I needed to check if my wife was just a pile of pillows with a wig, because this really came out of left field, no pun intended. I mean, it was already crazy to see trailers that show the Xbox logo fading into the PlayStation Studios logo, but boy, I really didn't anticipate Game Pass. This is a tough one to take for PlayStation fans. You know, for years and years and years, they've had the only baseball game in town, really. There's the RBI baseball game, which is not a real, sim-like sports game, and they've reviewed fairly poorly. And, I know people that bought a PlayStation system just to be able to play the show. Like, that's their thing. You always hear the adage of the player that only buys Call of Duty and Madden every year. There are legitimately people out there that pretty much play the show and maybe Call of Duty, maybe a couple other sports games, but I mean, the show is their deal. It's wild to think that this is happening. I mean, growing up in the 90s, every kid drew a line in the sand. You were either a Sega fan or a Nintendo fan, and you vehemently defended your titles. Sonic was better than Mario or vice versa. But, I mean, think if, all of a sudden Nintendo just came out and was like, oh yeah, we're putting Mario on the Genesis. That's such an insane thing to think about. And this isn't to say that the show is a game on the level of, a Mario or a Sonic, but I mean, it is an important title for Sony. It is yet another exclusive that they have. I think that we're kind of beating a dead horse at this point when we say that Microsoft has been lacking for a few years now in first-party exclusive titles. Now they're obviously rectifying that by purchasing Bethesda. They've got the show coming over, and they have really, really turned up the heat on Game Pass. Outriders came out today, big game, and it's on Game Pass day one. So yeah, seeing the show go to Game Pass is tough, because if you're a Sony console owner, you spent the money on the PS5, you spent the money on the PS4, you buy your show every year for $60, now it's gonna be $70 on the PS5, and you're loyal to that game because you don't really have a choice, to be honest. If you want to play a baseball video game, you got to play the show. It's a little bit of a gut punch to be like, man, I've supported Sony by giving them my money for a console to play it on and my money for the game, and now for however much Xbox Game Pass is right now, it's $15 or less. I pay the $15 a month to get the Game Pass with PC Live, although I know it's Xbox Network now, but yeah, that's crazy. It really, I mean, legitimately stopped me in my tracks for about 10 minutes this morning when I saw that. It is just a wild thing to see. Xbox people win. If you have an Xbox and nothing else, I mean, you win huge. You get the best baseball game ever made, bar none, in the show. You get it as part of Game Pass, which is a nominal fee that you're paying every month. And, I gotta be honest, I hate the console war stuff because there really isn't a console war anymore, but this is kind of a kick in the dirt to, Sony players, to PlayStation fans. Hopefully Sony, I hope they get what they needed to get out of this. Obviously they make more money this way, but I have to feel that there has to be, not to get into the insidious business end of things, but I have to imagine that this has to do with Major League Baseball. The reason why it's coming out on other platforms is because, it's most likely that Major League Baseball said, hey, you had this exclusivity deal, but maybe Microsoft's knocking on the door saying that they want to make a game. We got two options. We can remove exclusivity, or maybe you put the game that you're making on Xbox. That's probably what happened. So yeah, big win for Microsoft today. Big win for them. And in news about a game I am fairly sick of talking about, this week it was announced that CD Projekt Red was canceling the Cyberpunk 2077 standalone multiplayer game. And I will be honest, I knew that they were working on a multiplayer component for Cyberpunk 2077. I actually did not know it was supposed to be a standalone game. I just figured it would be DLC, whether it was free or paid, that added on to your existing game. I had no idea that it was going to be its own separate product. Both ways make sense, to be honest. You can see a company being like, hey, we feel that this is enough of a game mode to warrant being a full retail release. That's not unheard of. So that part wasn't really strange to me, but I get the feeling that they are restructuring things in a big way. And through this news, it came out that, they still have a team working on The Witcher, or at least the Witcher franchise, whatever exactly that means. I think they've been done with DLC for The Witcher 3 for a while now, and I'm sure The Witcher 4 is probably the next big release from them, one would have to imagine. But I get the feeling that they may be spreading themselves too thin by committing to saying that online will be coming eventually to both The Witcher and Cyberpunk. That seems kind of like an odd statement to make. They still are cleaning up a very big mess that they caused for themselves. I get that Witcher is their bread and butter and probably a source of stability and comfort for the company as it's a proven and successful franchise. But right now, I would say stop working on The Witcher. Stop working on any type of multiplayer thing. Either fix Cyberpunk entirely and try to win back consumer trust, or honestly, at this point, an option, and probably the nuclear option, is abandon ship and just deal with the blowback from just being like, you know what, we'll work on the rest of the year, in terms of Cyberpunk, but after that, our bad. We're just gonna pull out, because as many patches are going to come out for that game and have come out for that game, there are no patches that can fix some of the very fundamental issues with that game. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be what they wanted it to be, and it's never going to be what fans wished it was. That's just not going to happen. And I hope at some point they get to a level where they feel comfortable saying, you know what, the game is what it is. We have to make something else. I think this kind of restructuring internally is a signal that maybe they're understanding that, and they're going to kind of move forward in a direction where, we got to fix what, we got to fill in the hole that we've dug, and I guess move forward from there. But it does seem weird that they're continuing to have employees focus on The Witcher, which is a done and completed franchise. I get that, they probably want to make a new Witcher game, but it seems to be the deal with Cyberpunk is kind of an all hands on deck situation. So, I get the feeling this isn't going to be the last bit of major news, both about Cyberpunk and future projects for CD Projekt Red. They're going to be in the news for months and months, if not years to come, just because of the amount of just craziness that is still going on with this game. And remember, game Cyberpunk 2077 still not available for purchase on PlayStation Network. It's been a while. They still have not done enough for Sony to be like, yeah, we feel comfortable selling this game to people. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. Not long ago, it was announced that Tiger Woods was joining 2K to be kind of the poster boy for their PGA Tour franchise. And this week, it was announced that EA is bringing their clubs back to the course and rebooting the PGA Tour game that they had, which is just going to be EA Sports PGA Tour. So, the game will have more info announced with a release date to be determined. There is a quote from Electronic Arts' Cam Weber about the game, and here's the quote. Our team of passionate golf fans is meticulously recreating the world's top courses, such as Pebble Beach, and we can't wait to give fans the opportunity to compete on some of the most iconic PGA Tour courses and win the FedEx Cup, end quote. I get the feeling that we are going to see some courses that appear on the PGA Tour exclusive to one game and some exclusive to the other. And I honestly worry that there's not enough of a market to warrant two golf games. Because remember, up until recently, there was not a market to really support one golf game. The golf club kind of was out there in the ether. Hardcore fans gravitated towards it. Obviously, the company that was making it now acquired by 2K and making a full-fledged 2K sports game. which is awesome for them. But I mean, there wasn't enough of a market for a while to support a golf game. And now all of a sudden, after 1 year of having one golf game that wasn't perfect, we're going to have two on the market. EA has tried this for years with NBA Live going up against NBA 2K, and they have not been able to pull it off. That game has been a mess in one way or another, and they have finally kind of, cut line and said, we're done. We're good on making basketball games. They've got it figured out for the most part with the other sports games. They all have their flaws. No one's saying that Madden and FIFA and NHL don't have flaws. They certainly do. But they are playable games. They are enjoyable games to the people that buy them. I will say this. The last golf game that EA made, the Rory McIlroy Tour game, was not good. It was really had some big issues with it. I found myself putting it down after, like 2 hours. It just did not feel right. And so with all this going on, I actually, because I didn't play last year's 2K entry, I actually picked it up today, and I'm going to be playing it this weekend so I can kind of get an idea of where we're coming from. And it's going to be interesting this year to have two golf games on the market. It's like we're back in the early 2000s or the late 90s again, especially with Tiger Woods being on the cover of one of them. But to be honest, as a golf fan, it is cool that I don't have to just have one option. I do get to see the reviews and see which one I want to try out, so that's always nice. Choice is always better for the consumer. But I just hope that, this doesn't just cause developers to be kind of putting their time and effort into something that just ultimately isn't going to fare well, because I don't know. Are the consumers going to be a 50-50 split? Are half of the people going to buy EA's game and the other half of the people going to buy 2K's game? Are people just going to automatically go to the game that has Tiger Woods on the cover because he's the relatable and known choice? Yeah, it's odd time for sports games, no doubt about it. And that's pretty much it for the major news stories this week. I did want to take the time to highlight a new game that I ran across this week called Arcade Paradise, and they put out the announcement trailer, which is playing right next to me. Whenever I can, I do try to highlight newly announced games that pique my interest, and Arcade Paradise certainly does. The game appears to have a backstory of a father leaving his daughter to run his laundromat, giving her some space to expand the business to install more washing machines or dryers, but she is going to instead fill it up with arcade cabinets, and who wouldn't do that out of all of us? The tagline at the end of the trailer says, "Build the ultimate arcade." I assume this is going to be a game in the kind of tycoon genre, but honestly, we don't know. There wasn't any gameplay in the trailer. I wasn't able to see any screenshots, but that's going to be kind of my guess on that. There is a quote from the company making it, Wired Presents. "Welcome to Arcade Paradise, the 90s retro arcade adventure game. With the keys to the family laundromat, Ashley decides to transform the business and give the sleepy town of Grindstone something to get excited about. Stay one step ahead of your father, manage and invest profits, and build your very own arcade paradise. Over 35 arcade games, each fully realized with its own gameplay, stories, missions, and high scores to set. Inspired by 3 decades of gaming, from early vector games right up to the 32-bit era." I'm pretty excited. I love tycoon games. I love management sims. I love things that are arcade related. I just hope it plays well, because this has got the mixture of all the ingredients I need in a game that I can certainly dive into, but obviously the gameplay has to be there to back it all up. And that's a wrap for this week's episode of Push Start to Listen. As always, thank you for watching. I put up a non-video game related video on the channel just the other night, and it's recent toy pickups. I try to go out toy hunting whenever I can. I picked up a kind of a wide variety of things, from wrestling figures to movie and video game related figures. I ventured out about an hour and a half one way, about an hour and a half west of me and an hour and a half south of me on a few different weekends to be able to go shopping. I explained in the video we don't really have anything local, so I always have to travel anytime I want to pick up toys, and it's something I'd like to try and make a regular kind of video on the channel as much as I can. Sometimes you find nothing, but it was enjoyable doing it, something a little bit different. In the background, though, I have been hard at work at the next larger scale video for the channel that is not this series of videos. I'm working on a video about kind of weird arcade cabinets, and I'm in the editing process now. I'd like to say next week, but who knows? It is taking a lot more time than I initially thought, but it's a good thing, because I'm taking the time to make sure that it's done well. And so yeah, they'll be coming on the horizon soon. But yeah, I'm out for this week, and I'll of course be back next week to talk more about video game news. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.